It's time for Lefties Losing It, and let's start with this bit of wisdom from the man who wants to be president. Yes, Tim Walz, the worst ever vice presidential candidate, wants to go one better and be the worst ever presidential candidate. Listen here as he argues that Democrats should have gone harder embracing DEI, wokeness, open borders.
We let them define the issue on immigration. We let them define the issue on DEI, and we let them define what woke is. We got ourselves in this mess because we weren't bold enough to stand up and say, you damn right we're proud of these policies. We're going to put them in, and we're going to execute them.
Republicans everywhere should be praying that the Democrats listen to him, because they will never, ever win the White House again if they double down on that idiocy. Now, talking about doubling down on idiocy and lunacy, time to check in with the ladies of The View. And here, Joy Behar claims that no sitting president has ever criticised his predecessor before Donald Trump. She actually said this.
They also have a tendency to blame the Biden administration. Yeah. It's like, move on. That ship has sailed. I never remember in my lifetime a sitting president trashing a previous president. I've never heard that before.
Your hero, Joe Biden, wanted to put his predecessor in prison, Joy. We don't have time for all the hours upon hours of footage of Joe Biden trashing Donald Trump. So here's just 20 seconds of him repeating a dangerous debunked lie about Donald Trump, and then saying we should lock him up.
When the president was asked what he thought had happened, Donald Trump said, and I quote, "There are very fine people on both sides. My God." That's what he said.
Bizarre. It sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We got to lock him up.
Now to a woman who would no doubt be a finalist in the Victim Olympics. Here is a woman living in the West choosing to subjugate herself behind a niqab, a dehumanising face covering, and then complaining about how hard it is to eat in public.
I was struggling to eat in a veil at the beach, and this happened.
Usually it's a struggle for me to eat outside anywhere, and sometimes I can always just pull up my veil like this, eat through here. But I actually found a better solution. This is my solution, guys. We actually have a tent. There is a window, so I can just put it down when I'm eating, have my bagel, turn around, and lift my veil and eat this way. Everything's covered, right, Nags? You can't see anything?
You can't see anything, no.
I can also turn around and eat. I just have to put this up.
Can I have a bite?
No.
Can I be in there when you're eating?
I don't want you in here when I'm eating. Bye.
Hey, but isn't it so sad that you have to rely on a tent to eat?
Yeah, it's sad, so make more female-only accessible places.
Oh dear, it's like chopping off your legs and complaining about not being able to walk. You know what? There are a number of Muslim-majority countries, more than 50 in fact, where you can have all sorts of women-only areas, and those countries are also full of millions of oppressed women, many of whom would love to be free of the veil, to be free in the West. Perhaps you can swap places with one of them. Now, let's hear from a couple of our celebrity friends. They are always so in touch with everyday folk, so insightful and not at all self-involved narcissists. Here is Cynthia Erivo bleating about preferred pronouns. Hers are they, them. She identifies as a plural.
It isn't easy. None of it is. Waking up and choosing to be yourself, proclaiming a space belongs to you when you don't feel welcomed, teaching people on a daily basis how to address you, and dealing with the frustration of reteaching people a word that has been in the human vocabulary since the dawn of time. They, them. Words used to describe pedantically two or more people, poetically a person who is simply more.
Oh, so if you don't want to deliberately mangle the English language to pander to the likes of her, then you're being pedantic. Don't you know she's more, she's so much more. You know what? This next gal argued the they, them message so much better.
They, them, energy! They, them, energy!
Oh, I love her. Never stops being funny. But let's go back to our insufferable celebrities. And here is Bob Geldof. It's been decades since he released anything that anyone wants to listen to. But here he is with another unhinged diatribe about Elon Musk. And here he says that he hopes to see teenagers mess with Elon's wealth.
If I was 15 or 16, I promise you what I definitely do, just for the lols, I would organise a boycott of all things Musk. I would organise a boycott of Starlink, Tesla, Twitter, X. And I'd do it because I'd nothing to lose. But how amazing if you could mess with this guy's vast, inappropriate wealth.
Now, we are seeing a lot of Elon Musk-inspired derangement from lefties. Watch these damaged people scream shame at a dude in a Tesla. Yes, there's an epidemic of crazy lefty losers who are attacking Teslas and Tesla drivers. And these attacks are becoming increasingly violent. Watch what happened to this 61-year-old woman.
This is video from the victim's Tesla camera. It shows a green car pulling up to a Tesla on busy Route 66, then swerving in front to box the Tesla in. The driver then walks over to the 61-year-old woman in the Tesla and reportedly starts hitting her while she's sitting behind the wheel. At one point, the woman says she bit the man's hand. Moments later, the passenger of the green car appears to walk over and pull the attacker away. They finally get back in their car and drive off. We spoke to the victim today, who said she was terrified and can't understand why anyone would do this.
I'm ashamed of our society and what they're doing.
The victim, along with the other Tesla owner who received a threatening note and text, have both now signed up for a gun safety course at a gun range north of Flagstaff. They tell us they don't feel safe right now.
Unbelievable. Attacking a 61-year-old woman. Hopefully that lefty loon is behind bars and soon. This next lefty has been arrested for allegedly driving into a pro-Trump protester with his car.
We just learned that a 70-year-old man was arrested after Meridian police say he hit another man with his car during today's demonstrations at the Tesla dealership in Meridian. Police say 70-year-old Christopher Talbot of Meridian made an obscene gesture towards a counter-protester and then hit him with his car. Police say the victim had been driving a truck with pro-Trump flags and had just parked and gotten out of his car when Talbot hit him.
Joining me now is Newsweek's senior editor-at-large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel, Josh Hammer. Josh, someone is going to get killed soon if the left don't stop this lawlessness, this unhinged violence.
Well, unfortunately, Rita, if there's one thing that we know about the left going back at least as far as Karl Marx, frankly, you could probably go back at least even further to the French Revolution in the late 18th century. They love violence. Violence is actually part and parcel of what they believe. I mean, if you look at what the modern left stands for, they stand for barbarism against civilization. They stand for tearing things down, not for building things up. And part of that old school Marxist class envy, I think, is really part of what is going on here. Elon Musk is literally the #1 richest man in the world. You cannot pick a more picture perfect target of left-wing classic Marxist ire and angst and frustration than Elon Musk there. This is a man who has built successful companies, not just Tesla, but SpaceX. He's of course now leading Twitter, aka X, into the free speech era and so forth as well there. So it's for all of those reasons, but more to the point, I mean, I as an American who has to live with these people, I have to actually walk down the sidewalk, go to the supermarket, go to the grocery store. I have to look at these people in the face there. I mean, it is these fraying of the civic bonds of citizenship that ultimately in the long term have the pernicious potential to unravel the entire nation if it continues. I'm not saying that the nation is going to disintegrate tomorrow from this, but you have to prosecute this behavior. I mean, you literally cannot let them get away with this there. It kind of reminds me actually of the post-October 7 stuff, the pro-Hamas protest. There was a Jewish man tragically killed by a pro-Palestinian protester, aka kind of a rioter out in Southern California, November. Very similar stuff here. Whatever the cause of the day is, Rita, you can bank on the modern left being violent, but the answer to violence is robust and unapologetic enforcement of the rule of law. Send these bums to jail. If they're not citizens, send them packing out of the country.
Are these protests, Josh, partly organised and perhaps funded by Soros activist groups? We're hearing all sorts of reports about how it's almost like shift work for some of these people, where they put the banners down at midday on the dot, for example, and walk off, and others come precisely at the top of the hour. I don't know, it's all anecdotal, but do we know much about who's behind them, who's perhaps helping to fund it?
We don't know for sure a lot left yet, but what we do know is that there are a lot of left-wing protests over the past few years, that there have been massive amounts of so-called professional protesters. Professional protesting is now a very common thing on the left. We saw that at Columbia University last April and May during the pro-Hamas demonstrations there, where it was later revealed that a lot of these people were actually brought in by outside forces there. Frankly, a lot of the pro-Hamas stuff actually ends up being orchestrated by just foreign actors, including people affiliated with the Iranian regime, people like that there. I personally do believe, yes, that a lot of this Tesla stuff probably is due to Soros Open Society Foundation, Arabella Advisors, Tides Foundation. It's always the same actors. It's always the exact same actors here. Whatever the cause of the day is, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's Hamas, whether it's anti-Elon Musk anarchy, they gravitate to the cause of the day, and it's toxic and evil no matter what stripe it is.
Now to the always charming Democrat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, and when she is not mocking disabled Americans in wheelchairs, she is engaging in some, what I see as virulently racist dialogue. Listen here as she claims a black Republican colleague is whitewashed because he married a white woman.
Some of our skin folk who definitely are not our kinfolk, such as Byron Donalds, literally it's because you married a white woman and so you think that whitewashed you. I'm not really sure like what it is. You know, I feel like they give him his talking points and he's like, yes, massa, I got it.
Charming stuff. Skinfolk are not kinfolk, Josh. Explain the rise of Jasmine Crockett among the Democrats, the way she talks about some of the Republicans who she serves with, the manner in which she conducts herself. You would think it would almost be disqualifying, but she has got significant power and her voice is amongst the loudest right now.
Rita, I'll give you my quick take on Jasmine Crockett by way of a musical analogy. So I know that you and I are both big country music fans. I'm less certain how you feel about classic rock, but by way of example here, let's think about the Beatles. So the Beatles are Paul McCartney, John Lennon, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. So when the Squad comes into power in the U.S. House back in 2018, 2019, it's Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and then Ayanna Pressley in Massachusetts. But people forget about Ayanna Pressley. I mean, she's kind of like a nothing burger these days. So my theory on Jasmine Crockett is that Jasmine Crockett is making a strong play to supplant Ayanna Pressley as the Ringo Starr of the Squad, because Lennon, McCartney, and Harrison are already taken. But she wants in. She wants in on the band. She will be there in the background. She will do some drums there. She wants in on just the total chaos in the far left flank of the House Democratic caucus there. You know, maybe the most offensive thing about Jasmine Crockett is that she deliberately talks. She puts on this shtick, this act as if she's kind of like just like fresh off the street. She has this accent. She tries to talk. It's so demeaning. I mean, you look at where this woman went to school. She went to extremely expensive, elitist private schools her whole life. This is not how she actually talks. It is literally all an act. I don't know why Democrats feel that they have to put on this act there. If I were a Democratic voter, I would be grossly offended by this. I would just be deeply offended there. I'm obviously not a Democratic voter there.
I've played footage of her before she put on this new accent and this new act, and it is an act. And yeah, she was beautifully spoken, that product of a private school education. She went to an elite college, one of the more expensive ones. I had a look at the fees there. They're astronomical, Josh. And suddenly she sounds like as she does. Now let's talk about Vice President J.D. Vance. He recently addressed young Marines at Conoco, and he had this message as he celebrated what he calls a renewed sense of patriotism.
No more quotas, no more ridiculous mumbo jumbo, no more diversity trainings. We believe the real strength and the real diversity in the United States Marine Corps is that you all come from every walk of life, come from every corner of America, and you have got the strength and the purpose to win the nation's wars. And that is what the Marine Corps is going to do, just like it's done for damn near 250 years.
Josh, DEI is dead, certainly amongst the Marines. It's possibly where it was at its most dangerous and destructive to have these elite ranks being corrupted by things other than meritocracy, to have diversity, equity, inclusion considerations brought in instead of picking who are the elite soldiers who can serve.
So this was all along one of my top arguments for J.D. Vance actually being vice president of the United States in the first place. I argued this for months and months prior to Donald Trump picking him. And one of the reasons that I think that he is such a good vice president, similarly, actually, one of the reasons why Pete Hegseth is such an inspiring Secretary of Defense, is that these two men are very young. They are in their early to mid 40s, and they are both veterans. They are both combat veterans of the nation's, America's post 9/11 wars. If you want to actually look at what is one of the number one, I would argue probably the number one biggest issue currently facing the United States military, which is plummeting recruitment. The Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, they've all been missing their recruitment goals by double-digit percentages for multiple years in a row. You need people like the Secretary of Defense, and in this case, the Vice freaking President of the United States, guys who have actually fought in these wars there, to go inspire the young soldiers, sailors, and Marines, to actually go there and put out videos that are disseminated across national television. They're trying to inspire young Americans to actually go to your local recruitment office and serve the military again there. That is exactly what this country needs right now. But thankfully, Rita, at this point, DEI in the military is out. Crippling Obama, Biden-esque rules of engagement seem to be out the door there. America at this point is going to fight limited wars, but when we enter those wars, we are going to enter those wars to win. That is the way that it should be, and J.D. Vance, I think, embodies that to his core.
Now to the activist judges who think they can overrule the duly elected president. This is the real constitutional crisis, if you ask me, Josh. And the New York Post reports that the daughter of DC District Court Judge, Chief Judge James Boasberg, he's the one who tried to stop the Trump administration from deporting gangbangers to El Salvador. Well, the daughter is employed by a non-profit that received millions in government funding and opposes the Lake and Riley Act. His wife is also reportedly involved in a pro-abortion NGO, partly funded by USAID. Josh, how is the administration going to handle these activist judges going forward?
So thankfully, Rita, Congress and the president have all sorts of remedies that they can attempt to get across the finish line when it comes to reining in what Alexander Hamilton famously referred to as the least dangerous branch, which is the judiciary. So actually, just in today's Wall Street Journal, Chuck Grassley, the senator from Iowa, has this wonderful op-ed praising his new legislation seeking to put an end to so-called nationwide injunctions, trying to bring back the commonsensical notion that when a judge issues an injunction, it binds only two parties, the plaintiff and the defendant. What a concept, this notion that a judicial ruling could actually just bind the people before the court there. So that's one very basic thing. Congress could also enact so-called jurisdiction stripping legislation. They could basically just take certain types of substantive jurisdiction, whether it's immigration law, abortion law, whatever they want to, literally just take it away from federal judges, then move it to state courts. That is something that I've been arguing since my law school days should actually be much more frequent. Another thing that I actually do want to see some more momentum here is the idea of judicial impeachment. It's not actually going to go anywhere in the Senate. I'm sober about that. But I do think that you have to start making an example of at least one or two of these judges, whether it's Judge Boasberg in Washington, D.C., Judge McConnell. He's the USAID judge up in the state of Rhode Island there. These guys have to be made an example of, because you have to send a message, a shot across the bow, that we're not going to tolerate this behavior there, that we're not going to allow one judge to shut down the entire executive branch. That is not the system the founders devised. And thankfully, I think President Trump and his allies in Congress do acknowledge this. They understand that it's only a question of time, frankly, until these lower court judges are put in their place.
Josh Hammer, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Rita.